1,000 people who are members of Solidarity, and you have 500 Samizdat private press newspapers propping up. Because basically the people who live in that country are sick of hearing the party line, okay? So you have the kind of repeat of the cycle, and in 1970 you got more riots and pretty much the same kind of response from the government. A pretty severe crackdown. Actually, in some respects, the crackdown after the 1970 labor disturbances is worse, okay? But you've got big changes, kind of a watershed reached in the 1970s. And this is a classic example of, oh, I've got to wiggle this thing every 5 minutes. Tell me when you're looking at a blank blue space. You know? Because my peripheral vision's lousy. You know? Would you rather be looking at a smiling dictator? Well, see, in the 1970s, role of accident in history, a new pope crops up. Okay, John Paul I doesn't stay very long in the papacy. Well, where's John Paul II from? Now, how many Polish popes have you had in the previous 200 years before John Paul II? More or less than zero. Okay? It's a rarity, but it just so happens when Poland's going through all this travail, now you have a Polish pope. And that's in 78, and one of the first trips that the Pope makes out of Italy goes back to Poland. This is the former Archbishop of Krakow, where you're going. Okay? Goes back to Poland. Holds some huge masses, also, gives some speeches, and he talks about human rights, okay? I'm sure the Jaruzelski regime loved that, okay? Human rights, and of course, one of the human rights that this guy starts talking about is the right of workers to organize, to have a labor union, that isn't part of the Communist Party. It just isn't just another organ of the state. Now this is kind of the setup to what happens in 1980, 1981. Okay, because shortly after the Pope makes his visit to Poland, you have one of these situations where that cycle of the shortage economy has gotten to the point where the regime in Poland is freezing wages and jacking up prices. We're not talking luxury items, we're talking about what people need to feed their kids, stuff like that. Okay? And this time, spurred in part, and in a large part, by the Pope's visit, and by the fact that you've got a very heavily Catholic country, so most of the people in the labor unions are solid Catholics too. Okay? Not only are they going on strike to protest a wage freeze and price hikes and all that, but basically they have the papal blessing in a way to do that. Okay, and so Solidarność and I've got Lech here. That must be it. That's the classic picture. And notice what he has on the lapel. He makes no bones about it. He's a religious guy too. Okay, a religious guy living in a country whose official political doctrine is that there's no heaven and no hell. The Solidarity movement makes 21 demands. Okay, pay and price equity. That's the biggie. Well, there are a lot of biggies. I'm not going to go over all 21. Some of you would probably sweat in that. If you were in an upper division course, I probably would. I'd make you memorize any 15 of your choice. But basically what we're talking about here is right of unions to organize, right of workers to organize. Stuff that the Americans got in the Wagner Act of 1935, the Poles don't have in 1981. Okay? To have a union that isn't just a marionette that's having its strings pulled by party hacks in Warsaw, right to strike whenever they want. For example, if you get that pay and price inequity again. And another thing that they actually get that was amazing for an Eastern Bloc country, they actually put enough pressure on the government so that the government fired quite a few actually, corrupt officials in the labor ministry, okay? And I can't help but quote a little bit from this guy. Some of these quotes are translated, and sometimes you see them slightly differently because like any other language, Polish doesn't translate perfectly into English. But at one point, Walesa points out, history has taught us that there is no bread without freedom. And then he adds, we want sausages and butter too. Now, not what the party hacks wanted to hear, but the party hacks had pretty much gotten the country into the state it was in. And yeah, hunger demonstrations, even more than you had in the 1950s and 60s. Now, that's Lech. The government's pretty much on the horns of a dilemma here. Okay? That's Wojciech Jaruzelski. He's the defense minister and the prime minister of Poland at the time. The onus of this problem falls upon him. Okay, what's he going to do? He can try to fix the problem, or he can do what a central casting Eastern Bloc dictators would do, and that would be, have the tanks roll in and crush a few demonstrators. Okay, at first, it's kind of like the Soviet response in Hungary. Nobody really knew what was going to happen, and to this day, nobody knows exactly what was said between Jaruzelski and his advisors. Okay. But he finally decides that there's not going to be any reform, there's going to be a crackdown, that the whole country goes under martial law for a couple of years. Solidarity is outlawed, about 5,000 Solidarity operatives locked up. And in Gestapo-style raids, where the SB shows up at midnight, carts them away, and there's no Polish equivalent back then for something like habeas corpus. These guys just get carted away and they end up in the slammer. Some of them made to disappear, okay? And another thing he does that shoots the country in the foot as much as anything else, shoots his regime in the foot as much as anything else, okay? It's not just a crackdown, it's not just outlawing a union, okay? None of that stuff really works. Solidarity just becomes more popular, okay? You have fewer formal members than you had before, but that's when the 500 private presses crop up, and in an effort to print what the regular party-controlled papers aren't telling you. And Jaruzelski also makes martyrs, okay? And probably the best known one in Poland anyway, is, and let me show you Jaruzelski again. You notice those sunglasses? This is just a little aside here. And that's not some kind of affectation. This isn't just some military strongman who wanted to look like Roy Orbison or something. He was carted off to a gulag when he fell afoul of Stalin during the purge, and he got snowblind. That's why every time you would see that guy, he had these really, really dark sunglasses on. The truth, we used to have posters of him in the barracks because we're supposed to memorize all these bad boys we might have to go to war with. And he always cracked us up because he looked like Roy Orbison. Okay? Which, my references don't work anymore. Nobody's heard of Pretty Woman. They don't play it on iTunes. This is Jerzy Popiełuszko. He's a Roman Catholic priest, and he is really into the Solidarity movement. Okay, he publicizes it in his masses. He speaks in public about the workers' rights, and when Jaruzelski and company outlaw the Solidarity movement, Father Popiełuszko keeps talking. Okay? They threaten him, they kidnap him at one point and try to browbeat him into not giving these pro-worker sermons, and they can't keep them quiet. Finally, 3 Polish secret police corner him and beat him to death. Okay? Which, as if the Jaruzelski regime was not in trouble before then. This is in 1984. Beating up a Roman Catholic priest and killing him, and this is killing somebody basically on account of this person practicing freedom of speech, okay? In a country that's heavily Roman Catholic like that, the regime pretty much cut its own throat. It never could have recovered from PR that bad. And then you get to 1989, the fall of the wall, the collapse of the Soviet Union, and Solidarity, actually, Lech becomes the first president of a free and independent Poland, but the Solidarity Party isn't really important in Poland after about the mid-1990s. Okay? They never really surfaced again. They're a big trade union, but they never practiced a lot of political clout after that. On the other hand, their work was done. And the Poland you're going to is the Poland that I was never allowed to go to because it was on the other side of the Iron Curtain. Now they're NATO members. I love that. Okay, I finished about 10 minutes fast.
Great. Any questions? Great. Thank you, Dr. Daly.
Yeah.
Class, we'll see you Monday, 11 o'clock. And we'll go to Poland together. Okay? It was snowing a bit out there.
Past us now.
What's that?
Past us now.
Yeah, they just went right past us. Emma Hogan, where's she from? Either she's from Kansas City.
Kansas City.
She won't ride the people mover, will she? Christina Metzger, I know, won't. I can't imagine that she
I
would.
didn't want you to leave because I loved it. Okay? The historical background is a little bit loose in places, but I love the
What we'll do
line.
is we'll just get a van. We only have 4 people that want to ride. I won't think of
It really see why the Pope was
the
brilliant.
department van. That way we can set up a transfer.
I can't drive.
On me. There's so many of them in Kansas City.
Dr.